with the continual additions to the list of women who allege they were ually harassed, assaulted and now in a couple of cases raped by Harvey Weinstein. One of the questions many people tend to ask is, why are they coming forward now? Why did they wait so long? Many of the women going public with their story explain they were powerless in the face of a man who was protected in circles ranging from the media, the film industry and the legal world due to his political involvement. And what about the many women now speaking out on Twitter using the revealing the uall nature of the story for fear of being viewed differently, not normal, disgusting, pathetic or damaged? However, the trauma's physical, emotional, psychological impact on their uall relationships is what generally leads them to therapy. One client: details of clients' stories have been altered to protect their confidentiality. May have told her girlfriend that she had been raped by a male college student in the hallway of her prestigious university dorm late one night, but hadn't told her current partner all the details. The survivor hadn't shared that she never reported it to the campus police, nor that she became pregnant as a result of the rape and had to get an abortion by herself. She lied at the beginning of their relationship and told her partner that the student was visiting from another school for a spring festival, and she never saw him again. In fact, the young man was a popular student and having to see him every day caused her so much physical and emotional distress that she dropped out of school due to the development of post-traumatic stress disorder. Source: deposit photos. She eventually chose to go to community college while living with her mother so that she wouldn't have to live in a dorm situation. She never told her mother about the rape, the pregnancy, or abortion for fear that her mother would not believe her. This would have been one more trauma to add to the torture she endured. She never told her partner that she had dropped out of her university due to consequences of the rape, but rather told her that the university didn't keep up on her scholarship and she and her mother couldn't afford the tuition. Source: deposit photos. Why had she kept these details secret from her loving partner with whom she had been for over 10 years? Within the details of the story lay all the shame, self-disgust, self-blame and low self-esteem that are common outcomes of uall trauma survivorship. The women who are stepping up to decry the experiences they suffered due to Weinstein's alleged passion for harassment, assault, exhibitionism and rape are doing so now because they are no longer in a position where they feel threatened, or because they have done a lot of work to recover from the feeling that they were at fault, and perhaps because there is power in numbers. With each new story being revealed comes the support that their story will finally be believed and that some justice will prevail. When a couple comes in due to low frequency of and we conduct a uall history, we may hear a story that one of the partners has never actually shared even if they've been married for 20 years. Source: deposit photos. A woman shared with her husband that her stepbrother would make inappropriate uall comments to her when she was a teen, but never told him that he would actually force her to give him oral after school before their parents came home from work and threatened to kill her and her mother if she ever told anyone. This woman had always avoided giving or receiving oral with her husband and would only have intercourse in the dark so that her body could not be viewed by herself or her husband. She would get triggered when her husband was sweaty because the smell reminded her of her stepbrother's odor when he came home from football practice after school. The victims who speak of Harvey Weinstein as a predator tell stories with similar narratives. Many of them were young adults and couldn't imagine that a person of his caliber would attack them when they had been invited for a business meeting. The fact that they were instructed to meet him in his hotel room raised a flag for some of them, but they could never have imagined he would strip and ask them to massage him, watch him shower or grab at their breasts. Source: deposit photos. I found it telling that even in the extensive coverage of the Amber Badeno investigation in the NY Times, the excusing of Weinstein's initial touching of her breasts in their first meeting described by Weinstein's high-powered lawyers was based on the fact that they were discussing a potential lingerie ad campaign and he needed to see if they were real or fake. This explanation reminds me of the fake reasons boys gave in middle school for sticking their hands under girls' tops at recess, or how college-aged men joke about their non-consensual jokes played on female guests at a frat party, or the denial of a whole company who are complicit in keeping the secret of the leader for fear of ruining the company's name and potentially their own jobs. These young women did not have any standing in the film industry and were told not to say anything, otherwise they felt they would be blackballed by the whole business. While many of them reported they told a friend, a parent, or a sibling who did believe them, they knew they would not be believed by anyone in the industry or they would be silenced because Weinstein had too much power and was way too connected to be convicted. Many of our clients who have been assaulted knew they would not have enough support if they chose to confront their abuser, legally or emotionally. They believed intrinsically, as Sarah Polly articulately described in the NY Times, that the idea of making people care about it seemed as distant an ambition as pulling the sun out of the sky. Source: deposit photos. The people in power would have to look at not only a predator in their midst but at themselves and ask how they could have allowed this to happen. This is what those in the industry are now having to contend with when they say, well, we knew he liked young women. Whether the clients we see were raped by the most popular guy on campus, molested as a child by an uncle who was considered the family darling, or harassed by a boss that had claimed he was their mentor, each of these women I am describing knew that not only would they not be believed, but that their reactions by their parents, principal or the local district attorney would be too challenging to deal with. When a person reports an assault, a ually molestation or a harassment, they become the one investigated, frequently maligned, harassed, made to feel like they're crazy and threatened. When one client told me about her boss asking about her dating life, including comments about how is so different these days, she wouldn't tell anyone in HR for fear the promotion he had given her would be suddenly taken away, or worse, he would find some grounds to fire her. Source: deposit photos. Her decision to stay at the job was an act of rebellion from her perspective, in that she would not allow him to rob her of a career she'd worked so hard to achieve, and the income to pay off her student loans. Although she let me know she wouldn't report his actions to HR, she was receptive to my counseling and support of her finding another position in the company with a different boss, and she navigated the system to get into that group. This harassment hadn't been why this woman came into treatment, it was her avoidance of intimacy with her new boyfriend who she really liked. She didn't understand why all of a sudden she had lost her interest in ually when she had been interested in it before. Only after more sessions did it come to light that her boyfriend would flirt by asking about her ually interests, which reminded her of her boss and caused her to withdraw. Another reason some survivors don't report an incident is because they fear it would shame the entire family. One client didn't come forward to tell her mother that her maternal uncle had repeatedly fondled her until she had moved thousands of miles away, was supporting herself, and knew she wouldn't have to face retribution by the uncle nor the slurs she thought she'd received from cousins or grandparents who wouldn't believe her. The vaginal penetration. While most survivors keep quiet in order to literally survive physically and emotionally, the toll on their psyche, their body image and their future relationships, whether they are professional or intimate, are usually seriously impacted. The former British actor Sophie Dix described how she took to the bed for 6 months after the alleged assault by Weinstein in a London hotel, and although she reports that she did tell the story to people she thought were capable of making a difference, no one would come to her defense. 27 years later, she still feels that it's the single most damaging thing that's happened in my life. When someone calls a boss, friend or colleague a womanizer, player, or slut, don't just take it as a rumor, or to mean that the person likes to have a lot. Ask more questions. It may lead to a story of assault or harassment the person is holding on to until they feel safe enough to share it. With this new deluge of with support behind them, a survivor can receive techniques to prevent flashbacks, disassociations, negative self-talk and other symptoms. They can receive guidance on their physical health, and in some cases their ability to get justice. Let's hope the huge power differential